Alright guys, time to grab it back again today. I hope you're enjoying your day so far, and today we're going to talk about OpTic Gaming and Hector Rodriguez's acquisition of the OpTic Gaming brand that happened, or at least was confirmed a few weeks ago now. Very interesting to hear Hector's perspective on the leak that happened right at the start of October, the implications that could potentially have had for the brand stopping the deal going through, and also what that could have meant for the Los Angeles Thieves, but also who he felt leaked this to the press, given the fact that he doesn't believe there was a leak within his own team or the Immortal side, but it probably could have been within the CDL themselves, which is pretty remarkable to think about, the fact that Activision and maybe the CDL were responsible for this going through, and it could have, well, significantly affected their bottom line at the end of the day, given how positive this seems to be as a move more generally for the Call of Duty League for 2021. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really helps out the channel. Thank you very much for doing that. Before we get into the OpTic stuff, just wanted to say this on the Royal Raven side. Yesterday, the CDL came out with a video where they were recapping their team, and as well, you can see in this title, there was no keeping the team together after last season, and Shawnee and Dylan and co go at quite some length here about how their practice last season was just horrible, and how like Scraps and Waskin got on together nicely as, you know, as a pair, and when things were going well, they were going fine, but when things were going bad in practice, it was just a disaster, right? Pretty much saying that like the practice issues that have been rumored maybe for Waskin and Scraps were indeed what they felt internally within the team, and I suppose it could also be argued with Scraps and Waskin saying all these things on Twitter the last couple of months about how, you know, they're being costed a spot, and these you know, betrayals that we heard Waskin talking about these last couple of days. Potentially, yeah, the team hasn't necessarily come out to defend them, right? Like Shawnee, Alex, and Dylan aren't necessarily there to defend these guys and say they do deserve a spot. So, yeah, I don't really know, right? It's difficult to read into, but I thought this was pretty interesting. I'll leave a link down below if you guys want to check it out in greater detail. So, OpTic Gaming a few weeks ago, Together We Stand, Together We Fall, all this good stuff. 11th of November was the official confirmation that OpTic Gaming are going to be back in the league as OpTic Chicago, of course. So, Hector owns OpTic Gaming in its entirety in terms of the IP, but then Chicago Huntsman was rebranded to OpTic Chicago under NRG, of course, as the co-CEO over there. Now, we talked about a couple of weeks ago how this almost fell through, as he says. Well, you can read the title right here. We talked about this at the time, as he said on this interview with Richard Lewis, saying that, like, look, someone out there leaked this to the press, and he's not mad about, you know, at Kevin Hitt at the Esports Observer for leaking this to the public. I mean, there was also a secondary leak, you guys might remember, just a couple of hours before this did indeed come out, right? Given the fact that this was on the 1st of October, it was initially leaked, and it was said that, like, okay, look, Hex has acquired this spot. He's looking to divest it to another ownership group. And what we rumored at the time is that potentially going to be Nadeshot and the Los Angeles Thieves, or 100 Thieves, and yeah, into the Los Angeles Thieves, as it did turn out to be at the time. That came out pretty much at the start of October. But what Hex says in this clip we're going to look at in a second, and Hitch says as well, and I believe Hitch was also saying this at the time. I remember a clip that came out from him on stream saying that, like, look, this isn't set in stone, right? You just keep your hopes up, but it's not guaranteed. And yeah, it was really, well, a nerve-wracking time, I'm sure, for these guys. The fact that, well, they were really hoping it was going to happen, and it was kind of working, but things weren't necessarily going all hunky-dory. And then this story comes out that all of a sudden, like, it's happening, it's going through, and yeah, Hex is in a difficult spot, and that's to kind of renegotiate the deal in a sense, that then the Immortals guys come back and say, okay, the fact that this is leaked changes things, right? Like maybe other investor groups are coming into play. And Hex talks about how this almost stopped the deal in its tracks, and the fact that this entire deal was based around the fact that he would buy out the OpTic Gaming Los Angeles spot, then sell it on to Nadeshot through the fact that he gets the OpTic Gaming branding back. And if this deal went through, then there was no chance for 100 Thieves or Nadeshot or LA Thieves to even become a thing, right? And yeah, this leak pretty much put that entire thing at jeopardy. And then he goes on, of course, to talk about who it potentially could be. He says he keeps his own circle super tight. He doesn't imagine it would have been the case on Immortal side, so he thinks the only the only candidate that's left there is someone from the CDL or Activision side leaking this to the press. And he's pretty mind-blown about the idea that that could be the case, and also goes on to say in a little bit more detail how there was something else with the CDL that he was very frustrated about, that, well, he's not going to go into quite so much detail on that quite yet.
But that's why they were like, hey, you know, this changes a lot, right? Because they didn't get a chance, or they weren't going to get a chance to explain why, right? Why we're stepping away, or why we're making this business decision, right? Which for them was the right business decision, right? And they didn't get a chance to do that because of this leak. So when the leak happened, I was like, and I got the text, bro, my blood just...
Oh, dude. What was said in that article wasn't true, because it was probably going to be true, but from what you heard is that, or from what I heard from you last, is that it wasn't going hunky-dory. It wasn't, the dots were not connecting as they were supposed to. So my fear was that that article gave people hope that it was going to come back when it inevitably was not going to come back.
The thing at the time and why that article didn't make sense was because they had 100 Thieves attached to it.
Right.
And although that was the case at that time,
right.
it wasn't what was happening during that time.
Right.
And what people don't understand is that if that whole thing, if my thing got canceled, then that thing doesn't happen, right? Because it was the whole thing that I'm getting, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, like if what happened to me doesn't happen, there's a lot, like two different things don't happen. I don't get OpTic back, and my brother's not in Call of Duty,
right?
Off of one leak, and again, I don't know who it was. It couldn't have been. It couldn't have been. It could not have been IMT. I know that because they wanted to make the deal happen. It couldn't have been us because we wanted to make the deal happen. So the only thing that I think is like it had to be some leaky stuff on the ATVI side.
Damn.
Which is wild to me because again, the league for everything that we do, like they've always been straight up honest, and everything that they do with the right intentions behind them.
Right.
I'm not going to talk about, what happened between me and the league during that time, because something did happen, and that was neither here or there. But like we were all working towards something, so it had to have been someone way low that shouldn't have gotten the information that they got, and they obviously did what and it's like I could go to whoever leaked it. I'm like, yo, what's up, man? I'll give you $100,000 to tell me if it was. You know what I mean? But I don't know, but it felt to me like it was going to be one of those things where, sorry.
So pretty incredible to hear the possibility that these teams we're looking at right here with Los Angeles Thieves and OpTic Chicago almost fell through last season, potentially due to a leak from someone from the CDL or from Activision side who was kind of overseeing this deal. Pretty remarkable to see, given, as I said at the start of the video, how positive this seems to be for the league, how good this is going to be for the storylines for next season, and also for the branding within the league. More generally, having OpTic, having Thieves here, having FaZe, Dallas Empire, it's just going to be a great time overall. The fact that, a leak from the CDL side could have potentially cost this is a pretty remarkable thing to think about. So of course, as LA Thieves then confirm on the 6th of November here before OpTic Gaming even comes official, thankfully this deal with HECZ and Natod and everything did end up going through, despite the leak that came out at the time, which kind of put things in a little bit of jeopardy. And it's not Kevin here at Esports Observer's fault for reporting on something that he's heard and can ratify through a couple of different sources, but from HECZ's side, it's the source's fault, right, for leaking this to the press. Now, he does certainly wonder who it is, and if this did actually cost this going through, I'm sure he would have been, very angry and frustrated indeed, more than he already was at the time. Just wanted to talk about this as well, because we talked about, he mentioned right at the end of that clip, the fact that, the CDL, he was also frustrated with something else going on with the CDL, which he doesn't want to talk about quite yet. And maybe this is because, they were having some friction with him rebranding the team. I don't know if this is exactly the case, but certainly something that we did talk about at the time. The fact that, would the CDL be, frustrated? Would they not be very happy with the idea that HECZ is going to be rebranding the Chicago Huntsmen, their biggest brand in the entire league, to OpTic Chicago, right? At the end of the day, I feel like it's worked out quite nicely. Huntsmen now are in a position they can become a content brand, or they can just be a merchandise line or something like that and be a part of Greenwall folklore in that sense. But maybe the CDL were kind of having issues potentially with him rebranding to OpTic. I can certainly understand from their side to a degree the fact that Huntsmen are our biggest brand in the league, OpTic are already a brand, is this going to work? Why do we want to get rid of all the sponsorship potential the Huntsmen have? But at the same time, you just bring all the sponsors from Huntsmen over to OpTic Chicago now. The Twitter still has the same amount of followers. The YouTube's blowing up even more than it already was as the Huntsman. So definitely an intelligent choice from the CDL to decide not to actually deny this rebrand. But maybe that was something that HECZ was kind of frustrated about. And I wonder if we will be able to find out exactly what this was that frustrated HECZ in the coming months if he does decide to go a little bit more public with this stuff, and the friction that there clearly existed there behind the scenes in addition to this whole leaking situation that we have discussed. So intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, of course. A couple of things to finish off the video. I thought this is pretty entertaining given we were talking about LA Thieves. So MattG, of course, the general manager over there, after every map, accuracy stands up, so kind of rooming, I imagine, with MattG, and enters his power pose to yell at his team about what they did wrong. So I thought this is pretty funny that he just stands up and walks around. Of course, accuracy on the Minnesota Rocket this season alongside Priester, Major Maniac, and Attach. So I'm not sure exactly how that team has been doing in scrims, but certainly not as well as the Atlanta FaZe, as we talked about earlier today. And just to finish off with this clip as well, earlier today we talked about how Rated was joining 100 with Thieves on the Warzone side, and he had a pretty nasty VIP escort clip to finish off the video. Thought I'd finish off with another one here from Scump, playing this game mode as well. Pretty interesting game. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm know you enjoy this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.
On the
Wait,
plane wing.
yeah, right wing. Simp.
Yeah,
Down,
right
down,
wing. They're
down,
watching
down.
my down low.
I down one mid.
Plane
Down
wing,
one mid.
plane wing. In the
Down
down low.
low.
Or what?
Both. Oh, he's
Low
resing.
and
Dead.
low.
Let's go. All dead. One more.
Other one.
Wait, he's
He's
extracting.
on the smoke. Yeah, in the extraction.
He's winning. Let's go.
Nice.
Nice. Let's go.
I'm gonna try to wrap around. And pick I'll come back. I'm gonna get Aiden. You guys keep playing here.
Yo, I killed the VIP. Let's go. Game.
Let's go!
Big lanes. Let's go.
He's trying to revive him. Look at him.
Let's go, baby.
MVP play of the game. Let's go.